2020 was a real shit year for endurance athletes and triathletes like myself. Rolling into 2021, everything was going great until it wasn't. If you're anything like me, you play WebMD when things aren't going right with your body. And this is what I figured out. I'm Joe Klinedinst of JK Endurance Coaching, and this is my journey from knee surgery to Ironman in 115 days. With all the big races in 2020 being canceled, my coach Andrew Yoder of Yoder Performance put together a time trial event on the Ironman Maryland course in early October. My fitness was great going into that. I went down and rode the entire 112-mile bike in 4 hours and 24 minutes. Coming off that, we didn't run the entire marathon. We just did a half marathon. So off the bike, I ran about a 126 half marathon. So I was real pleased with my fitness there, and was obviously disappointed that I wasn't, doing the full Ironman course, which I was signed up for in Maryland for 2020. One thing that I was experiencing though, especially coming off of that like hard TT effort, I was having some hip issues, which isn't anything new to me. I've, had different hip and knee little things flare up and go away over the years. And one of the things that in a couple bike fits in the previous year or two, I had worked with like Matt Steinwitz and a couple other bike fitters, and the issue came up of crank length. I was riding the 172.5 cranks, and was suggested to maybe go with shorter cranks, but it just the timing and I had my power meter was built into my crank, and some of it was budgetary and all that stuff. So I finally decided to try to alleviate those hip problems. It was time to make those big changes with my bike. So going into November, again, starting to pick up the training a little bit after some easy weeks. I felt some, pretty big adjustments like popping, just doing my daily kind of routine of strength and some stretching. And it actually relieved. I was like, whoa, it feels, much better. But then I started to pick up kind of like a knee issue, right? And, wasn't real sure. I kind of just ran through it. I noticed maybe a little bit of swelling in the knee, just kept kind of grinding through. And I would say by like Thanksgiving, the swelling stuff was getting a little bit worse, starting to be more painful. Like towards the end of longer runs, in my training, I was starting to pick up and do some longer runs with some efforts kind of building into those runs, some tempo type work. During the week, I was doing a lot of hill workouts. And again, I was really kind of starting to feel some pain, mostly on like I would say what you call the inside of my knee. So once I started going down the path of looking at some of the information online, I was looking at, maybe it's runner's knee, and I was trying to do some of the strength exercises and rehab type of stuff to deal with runner's knee, a little bit of icing, stuff like that. Didn't really seem like that was getting me anywhere. We decided to make the decision to just back off and just do easy running for a little bit, see what that did. After, some short, easy, like a week or two of that, went back to more, just starting to build up a little bit again. And again, just wasn't feeling better. At that time, we made the decision, this would have been December. We made a decision to just shut running down. Forget how many days, maybe about a week of just like no running at all. Now, I didn't mention throughout this, I wasn't having too much troubles on the bike. Only time would be like if it was the day after a long run and it was, really sore, like just getting down to my bike, from in the mornings, like down the steps was a little painful. Getting started on the bike once I was riding wasn't too bad. But then once I was done getting off and back up the steps, that's where I was experiencing pain. And then with swimming, it was mostly just like pushing off the wall. Maybe if I was doing some kick kind of work or heavy, like fast sets where I was kicking a little harder, I would feel it, but it wasn't really restrictive in any way in the swim. Took some time completely off the run. And when I knew that the problem wasn't going away is after some time off, that very first run back, like a 30-minute easy run, the pain was like terrible inside the knee. Just like pretty, I think I was doing that run on a treadmill and I just had to shut it down. I couldn't even get through the whole run. And that's when, we made the decision, it's time to see a doctor. It was an easy decision of who to see. About a year and a month prior to this time, I had just finished up a surgery with Dr. Almer in OSS after my bike accident, where I broke my collarbone a week before flying to Kona to do the World Championships. And he did a great job. It was a pretty involved fracture, with ligament damage and all kinds of stuff. And I'm back, swimming. I mean, obviously it's never probably going to feel normal again, but I'm able to do everything that I want to do, thanks to his good work. So I went to see him, and again, at this point, I was thinking maybe some kind of bursitis, not sure, wasn't really thinking too many other things just from the research I had done. But literally within 2 minutes, touched a couple questions, touched a couple places, he was pretty certain that I was probably looking at a torn meniscus. That was, the appointment was pretty short. He ordered up an MRI to be done. I think it was about 5 days after that first appointment. So now we're into like the first into the second week of February of 2021. My, question to him, without even seeing the MRI, he couldn't answer too many questions, but I'm scheduled to race at Ironman Coeur, which is June 27th. So from that appointment, you're looking at about, about 4 months, I believe, maybe. He did say I could continue to train. He said, light running is still okay at that point, just until like tolerance of pain, but the biking's not bothering me, and swimming, I'm full force. So I shifted my mentality to, swim bike focus, and started putting in, lots of time on the bike. Training wise, I was continuing to do the same number of hours a week that I traditionally would do this time of year, just with very minimal running and bike volume up, and started throwing like one extra swim a week as well. Once I had the diagnosis from Dr. Almer that it was likely a torn meniscus, that really kind of condensed my searching on the internet to try to find any kind of success stories, or what it takes to get back to training, racing for an endurance athlete after a meniscus injury. And there just wasn't much to find. I searched, and a few things, but just nothing really very specific to running, especially, is where I was having the problem. And I think at the very least, the one thing I came across was a podcast that I listened to, a female runner who had had a meniscus tear repaired, or cleaned up. I'm not sure what exactly the procedure was that she had, but she was able to come back and do a marathon maybe like 6 months after her surgery. So it gave me hope that if I did need some kind of surgery or something, that I'd be back at it. And but that time frame of about 4 months until the Ironman that I'm signed up to compete in was still a big question. As much information's out there, I just couldn't really stumble onto something very specific about this kind of injury and what it takes to get back to racing and training. So that's why I'm going to document my journey, and hopefully that'll be something that can help someone else in the future, if they would, come into some kind of a situation like mine. So check out that next episode when the MRI results are in, and let's see where this journey is going to go. The 5th, maybe. That's it. That's episode 1 wrap.